friends, I hope you all are doing wonderful. Today we are going to cover what is AWS Auto Scaling, and basically this is a theoretical lecture. First of all, let's talk about what is the auto scaling in AWS. I'll give you an example first of all before we can start with the session. Say for example, you might have observed you have an application that is running on 3 EC2 instances, and most of the time these 3 EC2 instances are not having much workload, though those are running idle. Okay, so this is very practical example. What we could do in this way is if this we can architect in a better way by doing auto scaling, introducing the auto scaling, and what it will do is it will we can define here minimum, maximum and desired capacity, and if we can specify, say for example our first EC2 instance is running its CPU cycle more than 60%, then it will immediately launch another similar EC2 instance that is called as a horizontal scaling. So instead of running 3 EC2 instances which are not utilized properly, we can better make the utilization of the capacity. That is the main functionality or main use of this auto scaling. So AWS Auto Scaling monitors our applications and automatically adjusts capacity to maintain steady, predictable performance at the lowest possible cost. Using AWS Auto Scaling, it's easy to set up application scaling for multiple resources across multiple services in minutes. There are several other services that we can use using AWS Auto Scaling. So AWS Auto Scaling provides a simple, powerful user interface that lets us build scaling plans for Amazon EC2 instances, spot splits, Amazon ECS tasks, Amazon DynamoDB pulse, and Amazon Aurora replicas. So along with EC2 instances, we can use other services like ECS, DynamoDB, Aurora replicas, and spot splits. So these are the different services that we can leverage using AWS Auto Scaling. AWS Auto Scaling makes scaling simple with a recommendation that allows us to optimize performance, cost, or balance between them. So we can improve the performance or lower the cost or balance between it using this auto scaling feature. And it's not that we have to start from zero. If the auto scaling is already being used, then we can combine it with the auto scaling to scale multiple resources for other AWS services. With AWS Auto Scaling, the application always have the right resources at the right time. This is very important thing. Please note this. It will ensure the right resources at the right time using AWS Auto Scaling. And there are no additional charges for AWS Auto Scaling. We can pay only for the AWS resources needed to run applications and Amazon CloudWatch monitoring fees. So this is absolutely free, but whatever the services or resources are being used in this auto scaling, those are paid. For example, you are using auto scaling, you have to launch new EC2 instances, so you have to pay the charges for those EC2 instances. So this AWS Auto Scaling just provides a free platform, and you can customize as per your requirement, and this is absolutely free platform you can consider, and the resources which are being used are just payable. And we can use either AWS management console, that is GUI, or command line, or SDK. These three ways we can use AWS Auto Scaling. And particular to this session, we are focusing on what is EC2 Auto Scaling. Amazon EC2 Auto Scaling, it helps to ensure that correct number of Amazon EC2 instances are available to handle the load of our application. We can create collection of EC2 instances that is called auto scaling group. So it's this is a logical group, auto scaling group, and this is nothing but a collection of EC2 instances. Here what we can specify is the minimum number of instances, maximum number of instances, and the desired capacity. So when we specify these things, minimum number, maximum number, and desired capacity, this auto scaling group ensures this capacity or the requirement is fulfilled at any cost. Okay, it will ensure it is running. And we can, when we specify scaling policies, then Amazon EC2 Auto Scaling can launch or terminate instances as demand on the application increases or decreases. So this is the main use of main function of auto scaling. What it will do, Say we have specified minimum number of instances for your application should be 2 in your auto scaling. If you specify that, and say if example at present there is only one, so it will launch another instance. And if you in case you have 4 EC2 instances are being used for an application, but you have specified minimum number or say desired capacity as 2, the additional 2 will be decreased, or additional 2 will be terminated, that it will ensure. So you can see this diagram here that very well explain this concept. As you can see, this is auto scaling group. Here the maximum size, these are all EC2 instances. The 4 is the maximum size, minimum is 1, desired capacity is 2, and scale out as needed is, you can see. So as per this diagram, we can specify, say this our application is running on the EC2 instances, and if we use this auto scaling group, we can specify minimum it should run 1, desired capacity should be 2, and maximum 4. So if the traffic goes or traffic increases, so the maximum size of the 4 EC2 instances will be launched, and minimum will be 1. So when the traffic goes down, it will running on the desired capacity. So it will run, say, on the 2 instances. From 4 it will reduce to 2, and it will always ensure this minimum 1 EC2 instance is running. So your application will always run. That is the main intention or main usage of the auto scaling. So here you can see these are the various components. There are basically 3 components of auto scaling, which is groups, configuration templates, and scaling options. The groups we have seen, it is nothing but a collection of EC2 instances, and it's organized, EC2 instances are organized into groups so that they can be treated as a logical unit for the purposes of scaling and management. So it's become very easy when it's treated as a logical unit. We can create a group, we can specify its minimum, maximum, desired capacity of EC2 instances that we have seen. Then about configuration template, the group, this logical unit uses the launch template or launch configuration. So AWS is not recommending launch configuration because it offers lesser or fewer features as compared to template. So template is recommended, and what the template contains is AMI ID, instance type, key pair, security groups, and block device mapping. So all these types, say for example you want it should be t2.micro or t2.large, if you can specify the instance type or AMI or key pair in this template, and the group will use this information to launch or to expand the capacity accordingly. Then we have scaling options. So there are various scaling options. To give you an example, it's dynamic scaling or schedule scaling. For example, if your website goes the traffic on your website is very high, say for example on Monday morning from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. So you can schedule scale, and between this 9 a.m. to 1 a.m. so the capacity will be increased by auto scaling during this 9 a.m. to 1 a.m. span, and it will be reduced after that. So that is called as schedule scaling. We know the exact schedule, and it will behave or the capacity will be increased or decreased according to the schedule. You also have another option as dynamic scaling. Here you are not sure about the traffic or exactly when the spike will come. That is called a dynamic scaling, and here in that case you can specify it should be dynamic scaling whenever this in the event as such. This auto scaling will ensure the desired capacity is always there to handle the traffic, and once the spike gets down, then the traffic or the capacity will be reduced. Then there are several benefits using the auto scaling. The benefits such as better fault tolerance, better availability, and better cost management, to give you just as an example. First of all, let's talk about fault tolerance. Amazon EC2 auto scaling can detect when an instance is unhealthy. It terminates it and launch an instance to replace it. We can also configure Amazon EC2 auto scaling to use multiple availability zones. If one availability zone becomes unavailable, Amazon EC2 auto scaling can launch instances in another one to compensate. So it's not about auto scaling has, it's not just launches this, it also detects the underlying instances. So we can specify the number of times or whether various parameters basis on which EC2 auto scaling group will identify any EC2 instance as unhealthy before it should be terminating. And based on that, if an EC2 instance is unhealthy, and it will terminate, and immediately there will be another instance will be launched to ensure always that capacity minimum maximum desired is fulfilled. And in case if our application is using multiple availability zone, and if any one availability zone becomes unavailable, so this will also taken into consideration, and auto scaling launches the instances in the that particular availability zone. So that also ensure there is a better fault tolerance. Then talking about availability, EC2 auto scaling helps ensure that application always has the right amount of capacity to handle the current traffic demand. As we already talked, there's availability in with respect to availability, always it will see that the right amount of capacity or right number of resources or EC2 instances are available, so that our application is not affected. So it will ensure it's always available. Talking about cost management, this is one of this very important feature. So what it does is it dynamically increases or decreases the capacity as needed. So it's like as we covered in the beginning of this session, if you are running 3 EC2 instances and you are paying for that, even those are not utilizing. Instead of that, what we can do is we can run on one EC2 instance, and whenever there is application demands or there's traffic goes, there's a requirement to increase, then only in that case it will increase. So in dynamic or elastically it will increase or decrease the capacity, and we can pay only for that particular event instead of keeps paying on entire EC2 instance that is running. We can save our money by launching or reducing the instances. Okay, so that is one of this very important feature. Now we can cover up some of the example. The first example is for variable demand, or you can say it's a dynamic traffic requirement. Here you can see this is a basic web application running on AWS. This application allows employees to search for conference rooms that they might want use for meetings. During beginning and end of week, usage of the application is minimal, and in the middle of week, more employees are scheduling the meeting, so the demand on the application increases significantly. Here you can see this is without auto scaling. Here in the beginning of this week, particularly this is web application that is running on AWS, and for conference this allows to search and book this meeting rooms. Okay, here you can see the beginning of week it's not that much loaded, but on the Wednesday there's application the requirement is increases the demand for that, and hence it has been increased, and on other day it's not that much occupied. Here you can see there is lot of unused capacity here. So capacity, you can say this application entire application is running on 4 EC2 instances. On other days, like except Wednesday, on other days it might use only 1 or 2 EC2 instance, and remaining might be running idle. So that is unused capacity you can consider here. This is without auto scaling. Now what will happen when we have auto scaling introduced? Here you can see, so auto scaling adjusting capacity as needed. So whenever there is such a requirement, it will launch the EC2 instances or terminate when there is a requirement is not there. So here what it will do is, say for example on other days than Wednesday, it might run only on one EC2 instance and other would be used. On Wednesday, when there is a high demand, all this capacity will be used, okay, and it will be dynamically reduced. So this way, this is a cost-effective architecture. Now let's talk about another example. This is web app architecture. This is 3 tiers. You can see first is web tier, that is front end, then application tier, and at the back end it is our database. Here also, as similar to the previous example, it's running 2 instances in the web tier, 2 in the application tier, and 1 in the database tier. However, out of 2, only 1 is running at the moment, or 1 is being utilized, another one is now idle. we are paying for that as well when we are not using auto scaling. But when we introduce auto scaling, what it will do is the capacity is added only when there is a requirement. So it will launch, and we can use this auto scaling at each tier. So we can use at the web tier as well as at the application tier, and this way we can save the money by not running the EC2 instance all the time when there is no requirement. That is the benefit of this one. Now let's talk about what we covered. So as a summary, we have seen AWS Auto Scaling. It monitors our application and automatically adjusts the capacity to maintain steady, predictable performance at the lowest possible cost. It's very easy to set up scaling for multiple resources across multiple services in a minutes. We have seen it uses not just about EC2 instance. We can use Spot, Blitz, DynamoDB, AuroraDB, Aurora. All these services also can leverage auto scaling. Also, it helps to ensure that we have correct number of Amazon EC2 instances available to handle the load for our application. So that is the benefit of EC2 auto scaling. The collection of EC2 instances is called as auto scaling group that we have seen, and we can specify here minimum, maximum desired capacity of the instances in the each auto scaling, and based on that it will be launched. Then we have also seen what is launch configuration template. This launch configuration template contains AMI ID, key pair, security groups, etc., and based on that it will be launched. The additional capacity will be considered based on the launch configuration template. We've seen about the components of auto scaling. There are basically three components: groups, launch configuration template, and scaling options. Groups is nothing but it's a logical collection that we are seeing. Then templates we just covered. It has various features like AMI ID, instance type, security group, key pairs, etc., and raw device mapping as well, so that we can specify here. And in the scaling options, we have seen about schedule scaling, dynamic scaling. We also have vertical scaling and horizontal scaling that we have not covered, but we will cover in the upcoming sessions. And we also seen about the benefits of auto scaling, such as fault tolerant, it provides better availability and better management. After this, we have also seen about the examples. So friends, that's it for today. I hope you got the point and this concept is very clear to you. If you have any queries, please let me know in the comment section. So please like, share, comment and subscribe to my YouTube channel, that is Mohsin. I wish you all very happy learning. Thank you. Bye-bye.